Hey guys, this is Troy with Cape Ann Conversations, and today I have Andrew Nicastro and Steve Buckley. Andrew of Streamography, we're in his lovely podcast studio, and Steve Buckley, CEO of the Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce. We wanted to take a minute as the initial episode of the Cape Ann Conversations and tell you a little bit about what we're doing here and who we are, to get to know you guys as we look to introduce the other businesses from the Greater Cape Ann community to you. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Steve to begin. Steve, tell us about your role and how we got here with the chamber, because this is a culmination of months worth of work and putting together not just the three of us, humans, but many humans behind the scenes. This was your original brainchild, the podcast, and how we all came together is a fantastic story. So I'll let you say hello first.
Well, first of all, thank you, Troy, and thank you, Andrew. This is so exciting. Yes, it has been months. I always say everything starts with an idea, and it's with an idea, and it's always about collaboration. Everything that we do at the Chamber is about collaborating, bouncing ideas off each other. What do we think the demand is for? Is there a need out there? Is it something that's interesting? And so we started with conversations as we usually do, and started talking and looking at our community partners. And along with the Chamber team, we started meeting, and this idea started to become a reality. Thinking, what does the community? Where is the need? What do people want to hear? So a little bit of background. I'm a curious person by nature, and I love stories. I find people interesting. My background is in healthcare, 25 years, and a lot of it was spent with seniors. And you want to talk about stories, they have stories. And I was always fascinated. In my spare time, I would listen to their stories, and incredible what people have lived through. And the same goes for my interactions in the community and with the Chamber, and having over 1,000 members and thousands of people within that. There's countless stories. So we got together, we started talking, we said, let's get these stories out there. So with this podcast, we really truly believe it's more than just learning about the business, it's learning about the story behind the business. And so with all our meetings, our planning, I'm so excited that we're actually here today and we're talking. So glad to be here, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is really exciting. A little additional background there. So myself, I own 3 businesses. I like to say that I'm a recovering banker. Now my core business is a company called Best Vending Solutions. I run a vending machine business. You can imagine it, snacks and drinks in buildings all over Cape Ann and further. I also own 2 e-commerce businesses. If you've seen this visually, I'm wearing my Forrest and Harold shirt. E-commerce was my original baby in entrepreneurship. Forrest and Harold's a men's accessories company. We ended up acquiring another company called Viable Harvest. My passion in e-commerce was really about entrepreneurship itself. I ended up starting a podcast called the Tap Market Podcast, where I was interviewing e-commerce entrepreneurs for a couple years, and that got me my hosting experience originally. I was recording through the Riverside app for any other podcasters out there. And Steve, you introduced me to Andrew Nicastro here of Streamography, who has this lovely studio that we're in today. And if you can see this, it's Joe Rogan, but better, I like to say. So
it's
Andrew,
tell someone else admitted that.
Yes, no whiskey today, but this is phenomenal. So Andrew, please tell us a little bit about Streamography and how you got us here and how you got this podcast put together.
I appreciate you, Troy. I appreciate you too, Steve, bringing us together here. For me, Streamography's journey started years ago at what used to be the Piano Bar, which is today Tono.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So as a born and bred Gloucester resident, I was always around. I was always working with a buddy of mine that was a DJ. And we were working a gig at the Piano Bar. and it was a singing competition, and these young kids were just slaying the mic. I can remember like it was yesterday, and the idea hit me of, why aren't we broadcasting this? Like, these kids are amazing. And my buddy Jack LaPiccolo, another born and bred Gloucester guy, he was in the thick of DJing. He was running the show, so he was like, "Dude, like get back on focus, will you?" But my ADD kicks in, and I was just obsessed with this idea, and that is where Streamography started. I started live streaming for local businesses because broadcasting isn't this mammoth task that it used to be. It's still very challenging if you don't know what you're doing, but now it's accessible to the community. That was always my mindset. Fast forward many, many years, we now do videography, of course, audio production, lighting design and production for events. But I always had a vision of a home base that used my gear when it wasn't being used. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we didn't have an event out in the world, my gear would just be sitting here.
Yeah.
So that was the vision to the podcast studio. And so I joined the chamber, I think over a year now, but still, I was a newer member when I started reaching out to Steve and the team. Colleen and Cindy and the rest of the team are amazing at making connections. And that's what I did a lot of. Actually, I was really smart in just saying, you know everybody in the chamber. Can you help me introduce it to this person, to that person? And they were great. They're like, yep, on it. Email the next day with me and the other person connected. It was awesome. But the idea of partnerships started with like, hey, you do videography, and we can work together to get you some marketing, because marketing funds are crazy these days. So there was a good partnership there. And then one day I went into a meeting with Steve and Cindy, and he had his mad scientist look on. And I was like, I could tell, Steve, there's something, you got a look in your eye. What are you about to throw at me? And he threw a podcast idea out there. And I was just like, Steve, yes. Helping the community, which has been a part of Streamography's grains since day one, making something available to them that they didn't know was available to them, is amazing. It's perfect. Let's run with it. But that was months ago, like you brought up. That took a long time to get together, but here we are.
Many meetings later.
And briefly tell everybody about your original podcast. Just give it a little time due on the mic. So.
I appreciate that. So I actually approached my brother this was like a year or so ago. He, as a veteran, 18-year veteran, was all over the world, saw many things, came back overseas, had a hard time with that transition from military to civilian life, and really struggled with it. But the man is amazing. He battled and grinded, and he did, and he found a way to improve himself. And what came of it was an amazing story, like you were talking about earlier. A person with an amazing story. And through his story, he was able to provide a safe space for other veterans to tell their stories. Or at the very least, encourage them to tell someone their story. Doesn't have to be in a podcast, because that's very intimidating for some. But at the very least, with V. Cipriani at the Cape Ann Services office, right? She has said, and she's in our podcast as well, that many have come just to talk, or go to their coffee socials at 10 a.m. on Fridays just to talk, or just be present. But she has said that Bridging the Gap podcast, which is predominantly on YouTube, we have 17 episodes, has really helped the community again, which is really what we're all about.
Phenomenal. So this is we've hit on this a few times. This podcast, the goal of this podcast, Cape Ann Conversations, is to tell the stories. Tell the stories of these businesses in our community, to help our community understand, which plumber they could go to, which, when did Virgilio's come around to begin and exist? All of these different nuances to knowing more about the businesses in our community. These are the same businesses that, are the sponsors to our softball teams, that, give back to our own communities when we need stuff from them. We get to hear their stories, and we get to support them back. So I'm super excited to have all of these greater Cape Ann businesses on here. And if you have a business and you're in the greater Cape Ann, you got to be a chamber member. Go sign up to be a chamber member if you're not already today. If you already are a chamber member, you're going to be reaching out to Steve and Colleen at the chamber or us directly here at Streamography, and we'll get you signed up. We'll get you on here. What we want to do is we want to have a conversation with everybody. We want to hear their story. We're going to shoot for like 15-minute episodes, one-on-ones, one-on-twos. If there's multiple founders, we want to get the owners in here, the managers, everybody that can tell us the story about how this business started, what's going on in the business today, and how this community can support them, but get to know more about them. And I think it's going to be a ton of fun. And if anybody needs anything from the chamber, it's more than this podcast too. The chamber has supported my business. Andrew, you touched on it earlier, making introductions to other businesses, finding different communities to get you access to. Steve, you can talk a little bit more about maybe some of the broader chamber events and offerings that might be helpful for everybody too.
Sure. Thank you. Well, so much. We do so much. And I mean, we could have 10 podcasts just talking about all the initiatives that we're involved in. I always start off by, people always talk about our chamber versus all the other chambers, and we're known as the fun chamber. We're the interesting chamber. This is going to make us more interesting. But it's about making connections. With over 1,000 members, we're constantly making those connections. Troy and I were talking about healthy vending initiatives. And actually, with my experience in healthcare, I had been trying for years, and sometimes successfully, to get healthy vending machines in for the employees to have healthy choices in the workplace. So it can be as simple as making those connections at the networking events like Coffee and Connections, Business After Hours. The amount of events we do is staggering. To our Michelle Pepin, our events director, I don't know how she pulls it off, and the team. We just did Festival by the Sea, Waterfront Festival. We do Brewfest, Clamfest. I mean, it goes on and on. We do educational initiatives. We have the Business Education Collaborative, and that actually has broken into subcommittees with the professional development, career and college exploration, which includes our career and college fair. We're looking at job fairs, skill building, teaching kids how to do assisting and supporting, because it's really about supporting the schools. So with whatever programs, we're just there to support the schools. So anything we can do to help with interviewing skills, writing a professional cover letter, email, whatever we can do, again, to support. The Government Affairs Committee is really our advocacy piece. Anything that comes up, if we're to write a letter of support or stand behind something, we really want to talk it out, and it's open to members of the community, and then really engage with the local and state government mainly. And the committees go on and on. We have Health and Wellness, which I know Troy's a part of, our Health and Wellness Committee, our Business Women's Committee, Next Generation Committee. That it's great to see young professionals engaged. And just really, that's our future. I read a statistic that the millennials are now the largest part of the workforce. And so as an employer and have been in management for decades, you really have to evolve and adapt to the needs and also get rid of some of the misconceptions that are out there. So really engaging with the young professionals. Our IDEA committee is inclusivity, diversity, equity, accessibility has really been this year alone. Talk about ideas. It starts with an idea, and that started almost 2 years ago. And we had a phenomenal Pride event in June, and that's just the beginning for Cape Ann. So the committees can go on and on. We do work with scholarships. We do educational events and seminars, and just pretty much we're here to support business. We're here to support community. And check us out. Come to an event. You don't have to be a member to come to an event. Just get to know people and network. And first thing I always say at those events is introduce yourself to someone new.
And just to piggyback off of that, Troy, so they're more than just networking professionals. They're friends that actually want to help your business. So
Absolutely.
When I approached the chamber, like I said, like a year ago, we had a meeting where it was just a sounding board. It's like, all right, Andrew, tell us about what you do, and we'll give you some ideas. We know the community. We know our chamber members, and we can just help guide you on communication and messaging for some of your marketing or how you network yourself. And, I would say just don't be afraid to reach out to them and just talk to them. right? You just have a conversation again with the chamber staff. Like they're just there to help.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
They literally, it's like literally their job. They love to do it. They do it every day. Steve, give us a little geographic reach here, because we are talking about the Greater Cape Ann Chamber now too. We're including Ipswich and Essex and Gloucester and Rockport and Beverly and.
It's expanding. Actually, this statistic is probably greater than 20% of our membership that is outside of those 5 communities. Ipswich being making us the greater, but there's Rowley. We actually just had a joint networking. It was really fun, but joint networking event with the Greater Beverly Chamber. A lot of our members are members of both, and that's a good thing. So how can we support each other? And it goes down. We have members as far as into Boston and far out into Newburyport and beyond. So it's not just with 1,000 members, the geographic region is pretty far and wide. And one of the things that's very interesting is the majority of our businesses are small businesses. So we do understand the needs of small businesses and the need to support. We always, shop local. You have to shop local, support local, and how the small businesses support each other. And people, not just the chamber, it speaks to our community. Anyone that lives here in this region knows people want to help. They want to see you succeed. So a lot of people, whether they're too busy to ask, they're afraid to ask, if you just reach out, we're here to help, but the community's here to help. They want you to succeed. It's really, truly our nonprofit, the Development Warriors Group, they all work together to support each other. It's pretty amazing, actually. So
Yeah, we have, the Greater Cape Ann community is a super diverse community, above and beyond. It's got all walks of life here, and that's the same with this podcast. This is going to include every different type of entrepreneur out there. We're looking at not only your manufacturers and your consultants, but we're looking at talking to the artists. We're looking at talking to the not-for-profits. We want to talk to anyone who's impacting the community from a sort of entrepreneurial business point of view and beyond, because we think that they have a story that can add value to this community and that this community wants to hear. And I think the community wants to find ways to get involved, and this is going to be the outlet to have that conversation. And it may feel like a one-way conversation as people are listening to us here, but I hope as a host that I kind of get to be the voice of the community too, and try to draw out some awesome experiences and knowledges so that people get to really experience this. And it like I think I mentioned this before, if you're an entrepreneur, you're excited about the business that you're running, you want some exposure, come on the podcast, come tell everybody about it, because guess what, there's a lot of people like us that want to hear it.
And if you're a chamber member, of course, since this is now becoming a service that's just available to you, the experience you gain by getting in front of a microphone and realizing it's not as scary as it may seem, I think goes a long way in that new media market world that we are in.
Totally.
And opens a door, hopefully plants a seed in their brains to say, okay, what else can we do?
Oh, we've got big ideas here, don't we? We've spent, people are just hearing this now, but we've spent months talking about this and tossing around ideas. If you're thinking about an idea, please don't hesitate to tell us, number one. But we have big ideas on helping this community get more exposure.
How many meetings alone did we have on the name?
Just on the day, and it's still not final.
We always land on the simplest thing. That's the way it usually works.
Always, yeah.
Yeah. So keep an eye out for us. We're going to be on the Greater Cape Ann websites, on the Greater Cape Ann social media pages. We're going to create YouTube pages. We're going to have social media shorts and reels. We're going to have advertising. We're going to, from a media and content perspective, we are going to change the dynamic of how local small businesses in the community get exposure in leveraging the modern technologies, and we're going to set the stage for how it's done here. And we look forward to having this be a service for the community. Sound like a plan?
I'm in.
Hey,
all in.
Pushing
my chips in.
I have to, exactly. Let's push them all in. I have to say thank you to you two. You two have been absolutely phenomenal in getting this done. Steve, we could have never done this without you organizing, you and your team, and the literal commitment of time and effort from your team is just unbelievable. It would not work without the Greater Cape Ann Chamber. And Andrew, your space that we get to, come in here and disrupt, and the donation of your team's time is unbelievable. I feel completely honored to be the host here, and to be able to do the easy job of hanging out and having just simple conversations with the entrepreneurs. This is going to be fun. Thanks, boys.
It's going to be a blast. And thank you, Troy, for making that commitment to lead the charge with the conversations, because me being on camera right now, even though I can talk on the fly, still, I'm usually behind the camera. That's like my comfort zone with the technology, pressing buttons, But we have Kent in there pressing buttons, so he's doing a good job back there. I know it.
Yep.
I want to thank you both. It's always a partnership, and it's always about collaboration. I do want to thank the team at the Chamber. I'm an idea person, and the team is really who executes the details. Just as we, as a team, collaboratively put this together, and I'm excited for what's to come. And the last thing I'll say is, Cape Ann Chamber members, community, we want your stories. We want to hear your stories. So please reach out to any of us, and we'll be happy to hear them.
And listeners, make sure you subscribe to everything. To get these people the exposure that they deserve in our community, subscribe to everything that we put out. That way we can get the exposure and algorithms to work in our favor to support this community. We look forward to it.
That's such an important call to action there, Troy, is that when you see a friend or family member or just business owner that you know and love that business, give it the interactivity that it deserves.
Yeah.
That's how you get the social medias to say, okay, there's something here. And they give it a little bit more oomph in the
Yeah, you don't have to
algorithms.
buy their service or buy their product. It can be as simple as liking their page or sharing their post or supporting their endeavor. Do that here. That's going to help potentially thousands of businesses if we get them all on here.
Yep. Absolutely. And it's easy, as you said.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Episode's coming up.